Let's face it, local government is one of those topics that we can describe as boring but important. Boring because when it works well, we hardly even notice it. But important because if we get the settings wrong, if we get the framework wrong, it can have spillovers into the wider economy. Just look at Auckland's housing crisis and the effect that this is having on all New Zealand. Unfortunately, when we look at New Zealand's regulatory settings, we don't think that they are a sufficient framework to encourage open and transparent and accountable local government in New Zealand. And the problem we have is that there are just too many masters in this equation. Local government and councils are supposed to be answerable to their communities, but it's very difficult to do with our very technocratic planning system. Secondly, not many people are aware of how much work that local government does actually comes from central government. There are something like 30 pieces of regulation which confer responsibilities to local government, and that excludes the Local Government Act. Unfortunately, while central government is happy to pass tasks to local government, it doesn't often pass funding to local government, and it's local ratepayers who must pay for these regulatory responsibilities. This creates what we see as an accountability gap, the gap between the people who introduce policy and the people who actually have to pay for it. And what you have there is it doesn't allow any policy differentiation. It doesn't allow people to assess whether these are actually the policies they want, because we have this accountability gap. And that, we think, is behind many of the issues that we see in the local government space, many of the problems we see in the local government space, particularly where ratepayers have become incredibly intractable and resistant to any form of investment in their community, even if there are long-term benefits to them. And this is holding the New Zealand economy back. We think that needs to change, and our report, the Local Manifesto, sets out a plan to change that. In essence, what it wants to do is set out clear tasks that local government is ultimately accountable for and that communities can hold local government to account for. It also stops central government meddling in local government affairs unless it actually provides funding for that. And the third most important part of our recommendation is we need to introduce financial incentives. If we want to encourage local government to grow the economy, to open land for housing, there needs to be a financial reward, not just a cost, for doing so. As things stand, currently all the rewards for economic growth flow to central government in the form of taxes. Government needs to share that largesse if it wants to encourage more activity. Our report does that and sets out a very robust framework to achieve this. It's essentially a localist agenda, and we've seen it work in countries like Switzerland, the Netherlands, and increasingly places like the UK. If you're interested in finding out more about how we can make local government work successfully, efficiently, and in an accountable manner in New Zealand, please visit our website www.nzinitiative.org.nz.